Pregame.com.
Suns at Spurs. I'm Vegas Runner here with Scott Spreitzer. We're going to break down some weekend NBA action. This is a big one in the Western Conference. Spurs find themselves 2 games out of home court for the conference. Oklahoma City ahead of them. But Phoenix motivated as well. They're getting hot at the right time, trying to snatch that 8th spot in the playoff race. What do you make the line?
Well, last 27 games as we speak, and this is Thursday afternoon, Phoenix comes in 18-9, straight up 19-8 against the spread, which is one of the top 5 records over that time span in the NBA. The line, you know what, because they're playing, it's a back-to-back type of thing on the road for Phoenix, and it's their, 4th roadie in the last 6 days. I was going to say 10, it might even inch up. It might even be an 11 type of line that we see.
I agree.
Because of that, the over-adjustment that a lot of lines makers are making for these back-to-back nights on the road. But I went back and I looked throughout the season, and Phoenix is on a 4-3 run in this spot, playing a second game of back-to-back nights on the road. They've actually won 4 out of those 7 games. So, it's not like all of a sudden this team tanks when they're playing in a tough situation. Steve Nash has been playing incredibly well, probably the best he's played over the past 4 weeks that he's played in a couple of years. Alvin Gentry, who I was ready to say it's time to get him on a bus out of town real soon, has been doing a great job. And, before we started shooting this VR, you were talking about the way he's, giving everybody such equal time off the bench.
That's what I like. They're
Marquis,
deep. They're
Telfair,
deep.
Red, they're just tearing it up right now.
I agree. Here's the thing. You got one team in Phoenix who's playing their 7th road game in their last 8, where you have the Spurs on the flip side. This is their 5th home game out of the last 6. So I think San Antonio, although they've done a great throughout the season, I think the hype's starting to get there now. This is a smaller market team. It usually takes a lot for the hype to build up for San Antonio. We think of them as an aging team, But I think now the betting market's really caught up with San Antonio, and I think now is where you're going to start seeing them extremely overvalued. Here's a team that's 40-16 on the season, and yet they're 33-20-3 against the spread. That's extremely rare, because usually when a team's 40-16, they're going to come out inflated because they're getting a lot of action. A lot of money's being bet on them. But that hasn't been the case with the Spurs because they don't get that respect, I don't think. I think, though, now this late in the season, you're starting to hear a lot about the Spurs and how they just may be the team to beat out west. I think this line's going to come out inflated. I like Phoenix in this spot. What do you think of this, though? Are the Spurs, as dangerous as they may be, can they turn it up defensively when the playoffs start? Because this is a different Spurs team than I'm used to. I'm used to seeing them top in the league defensively. Now all of a sudden, they're 3rd in points scored, 4th in field goal percentage, 2nd in three-point field goal percentage. But defensively, they're 17th in points allowed, 21st in field goal percentage allowed. You think they could turn it on?
Yeah, it's funny because before the season began, I was talking to a guy who's real close to the Spurs. I used to do a radio show in San Antonio a few years ago. And he was saying, watch this team as far as scoring goes. In fact, the last 2 seasons. And we've been banging away early on in the season on a lot of overs in certain situations against certain teams. But you're right, it's a different looking team than we saw 5 years ago.
Than just what you're used to, when the makeup of them.
Yeah, and you know what I like, though? They are aging, of course. And Popovich, who's one of my favorite coaches in the NBA, I just think he's terrific every year, year in, year out with this organization. He knows what he wants. He gets what he wants out of his players. And a perfect example, and what I like, is when they go out and pick up a guy like Steven Jackson. Nobody in the NBA wants Steven Jackson. They asked Popovich when they acquired him, and they said, he's kind of a head case, isn't he? Blah, blah, blah. They used other words, but that's the gist of it. And Popovich goes, not on our team. We had him before. He's a great guy. We love him. What does he do? He gets the most out of Steven Jackson. There's
kind of like Randy Moss when he went to New England.
Exactly.
Belichick didn't have no problem.
No, it's exactly. He fits right into the team. So everybody's about the team with San Antonio. That's why they're always near or at the top. About 6 weeks ago, Brian Leonard and I were doing a video, and we were talking about, I think, Oklahoma City at the time. And we were saying that, San Antonio, they very may well catch the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference standings, and now they're right on their heels. They may not get there, but we looked at their schedule being a little bit easier than what Oklahoma City had to play. But the one caveat going into the playoffs for the Spurs, I think they actually match up better with Oklahoma City than they do with the Lakers.
I agree.
So when it comes to your question, getting back to that, my long-winded answer here is that I believe against certain teams they can step up defensively, but against a team like the Lakers, they can't because they don't have the bigs inside, with Duncan aging and with DeJuan Blair being a little undersized for that position.
Runs for playoffs.
And we saw, and this isn't just jumping on what happened in one night. We've been talking about this for a while, But when you saw what happened Wednesday night,
Right.
they didn't need Kobe. They had Gasol, and they had Bynum, and they just kept feeding the bigs inside.
Yeah, too big.
Totally neutralized DeJuan Blair. Duncan's he's not young enough, I guess, to keep his legs under him against those two. And San Antonio got pounded inside. I think the two combined for 51 points, if I remember right, Gasol and Bynum. So, yeah, against most teams they can match up and maybe turn it up defensively, not against the Lakers. That's their Achilles heel, I think.
So you're going to grab the points?
I do like the points in this game, by the way, getting back to this game. That's right, we're talking about a game here, aren't we? Third game in 4 nights, like I mentioned, for Phoenix. They're back-to-back on the road or whatever, and San Antonio's had a day off in between games, I believe it was. But the bottom line is, I think Phoenix, here's the deal. You're getting double digits in all likelihood or right about there. So you got a Phoenix team, let's say they're down by 18 to 20 with 4 minutes to go in the game, maybe even more. Popovich is going to sit guys like Duncan down, Ginobili down. And if Phoenix happens to be up by a wide margin, which I don't think they're going to be, but then again, there was the Lakers up by a wide margin, then he sits them down again over the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. So let's say you're down 18 and there's 4 minutes to go and it just looks like the game is totally in control.
Stay open.
You've got that chance for the back door because Phoenix is going to keep going after them. And they've got the guys now, as we mentioned at the top, Telfair, Markieff, Morris, and of course Michael Redd, who are going to keep bringing it even when the starters are out. So I think you got a couple of different ways to cover this point spread with Phoenix.
I agree 100%. I made my true line for this game 6, believe it or not. And more importantly, I did so when I started breaking down the matchup because of the fact Phoenix will play this team tough. The last time they played, the final score, San Antonio Spurs 107-103. But at halftime, they were only up 3. Going into the fourth quarter, they were only up 1. I think the reason for that is because Phoenix is a deep team, just like San Antonio. We know Popovich will go 12, 13 deep in some games. Phoenix is able to do the exact same thing. Therefore, it's tough to get out ahead because of fatigue. You're not going to tire this team out. And because of that, the back door will stay open. They're going to keep fighting. And I think double digits, I agree with you. Let's go ahead. Let's stamp it. Grab the points with the Phoenix Suns Saturday night against San Antonio. Phoenix trying to make a late push to the playoffs. San Antonio's starting to get overvalued in the betting market. We like the Suns. We'll be back with a big game on Sunday. Heat and Knicks.